as you can see, our blueprint Let's Play is going along pretty well at the moment. Using the blueprints, we've created several modules which can be put together to create a much bigger factory. However, that is just scratching the surface of what blueprints have to offer. And it actually takes me back to when we first discovered that we were going to have them. But the community was definitely torn. A lot of people saw this as great, but when it was released, they said that the blueprint designer is too small and cannot be used for much. Well, we've already shown that it can be used quite successfully for bigger factories, but it still brings me back to this one video that I saw by Nilaus, where he stated his opinions of the blueprint designer and how it was just too small. You couldn't build a whole factory within it. And this isn't me calling Nilaus out. He's a fantastic content creator. You should check him out. But it did give me the inspiration for this series because I thought, you know what? I think we can create factories within a blueprint designer. So that's what we're going to be doing today. What I've created are these all-in-one factories. And the idea is, as you travel the world, you can take a few resources with you and immediately place up a pop-up factory which will produce the items that you want. And all you need is to find an empty resource node. I've already created one that's specifically for rotors. It takes an input of, I think it's 112.5 iron per minute, and then comes out with, I think it's 10 rotors per minute. And I've also created one that produces 10 reinforced iron plates per minute with an input of 120 iron ore, which does mean that when they're combined, you can produce the space elevator parts, the tier 1 version, the smart plating, really quickly by just combining these two outputs in a single assembler. But I have grander schemes than that. I want to see just how advanced we can go with items in these small 4x4 factories, taking the raw resources into them and seeing what we can output. And also if we can partner these blueprints together to create other items, but that'll come later on. So if you do like this video, please do hit the thumbs up. And obviously, if you do want to see us producing more complicated items in these, do make sure to subscribe. But today we're going to be covering the very basics. Yes, the plan is to create the perfect starter factory for basic build resources that we're going to need. So we're covering concrete, cable, wire, screws, iron plates, and rods, all in this single 4x4 factory. And this is going to be consuming exactly 60 copper ore per minute, 60 limestone and 60 iron ore. But of course, you can double this up using power shards should you wish to. And yes, I am aware this isn't the perfect starter factory per se, because when you get access to the blueprint designer, it's actually tier 4, so you've already unlocked steel. So it's not the perfect starter factory. If you're interested in that, I've actually done a video guide on that. But this will cover all of the basic resources that you need to get you started wherever you are in the world. It's a perfect outpost starter factory. All you need to do is travel out there, place this down, and you're already producing a lot of the resources without having to worry about setting up the constructor lines. So I would argue it's really useful, and we are going to show you how to build this yourself. Although if you are a member of our Patreon, you do get access to this as a bonus blueprint anyway, to save you some time. In order to make this build as simple as possible, I've broken it down into 3 parts. We have the lower section where we produce the concrete, but we also have the logistics for the rest of the floors coming down and sending the items to the output area, and we're also going to be wrestling with the input areas. We have the mid section. This is where all the copper is being done, so we have the cable and the wiring done here. And finally, we have the top section, which is smelting the copper and the iron before producing the iron resources and sending the copper to the right floor. I've tried to make this layout as simple as possible to follow. As it is very cramped, it might be a little bit difficult. But let's get into it. The first thing that we're going to want to do is fill in the box, and then we're going to place the wall around the outside. But the most important things to bear in mind for this one is your input line, which is going to be on the left hand side, and then your 2 output lines on the right. With everything enclosed, we're now going to grab a splitter, and we're going to place this in the center of the foundation here, and next to it we're going to place 2 constructors. It doesn't matter too much where you place these 2. You've got plenty of space to play around with, and these are going to be your 2 constructors for the concrete line. So these are going to be taking 60 limestone per minute, which means for these we're going to want to underclock both of them to 66.667% clock speed, so that our target is 10 and we're consuming 30 per minute. At this point, you should merge them both, and then you can run this line to the exit here. You'll notice that in this version, I've taken them up via conveyor and then brought them back down, simply because in this one, you can see that we've done that with all of the resources being brought down via elevator to the exit. At this point, I highly recommend listing what resources are going to come out where, so that you know where the inputs and outputs are for each resources. On the input line from the inside, we have 60 copper on the right hand input, we have 60 limestone on the center, and then closest to the door we have the 60 iron ore. And for the outputs from the inside, we have the 20 concrete on the right closest to the door, followed by 30 cable, 60 wire, 40 shenanigans, that's supposed to be 40 screws, 20 iron plates, and 20 iron rods. The last thing to do on this floor is to sort out the logistics, but we can't really do that until we're producing the items. So we're going to move on to the next floor now. Just be aware that you're going to have to be taking the iron and copper ore to the top floor, and then the rest are going to have to go down to those outputs. For this next floor, I've made sure that the floor is placed above the constructors, so there's nothing creeping through like the light, and we are still using the 1 meter foundations. Also note that there's a space in the top left hand corner. That's where we're going to be going up using stairs so that we can go through the factory should we wish. We're going to make it look pretty cool on the inside too. At this point, in the center of the middle foundations, we are going to be placing 4 constructors. These will all be set to wire, and they will be running at 100% clock speed. And we're also going to place in the center here, just across from it, another constructor, and this is going to be producing the cable. So to do that, we are going to merge these 2 constructors together and feed them into here, and then these 2 constructors will also merge together, and they're going to be fed into a output line here, which will go down to the floor below. You can see the merging lines are sorted, and I've also done a manifold line. The manifold line runs from left to right if you're facing this build, with the input line coming from the top floor. This is going to be bringing in copper ingots and then running through the center line there to the first constructor, and then along a manifold to the rest. They're all running at 100% clock speed, and the last thing that we need to do here is to grab our lifts, and we will place them opposing directions and join these together. And then downstairs we will do the same by grabbing these, and we can just bring them all the way to the bottom should we wish. Obviously we do have a merger there, so we'll avoid that here, but we will run these all the way along to the end where they will receive the items. This section is more or less done, but you may have noted in the other build that we have a half foundation here, and then we've also grabbed a walkway, place that there, with stairs leading up to here. It is now time for the top floor, but before we get started on that, did you know we have just released a new album to celebrate hitting 1 million streams of our music? The music is copyright free, so if you are a content creator, you can use it in your streams or your videos for free. Do not worry, you won't get any strikes. But if you're not a content creator, you can listen to it whenever you want. It's the perfect chilled lo-fi vibes that I love listening to when I'm doing things like these builds. Check the link in the description below or search Totalxclipse on Spotify or Apple Music. For the final layer, once again, we are very much aware of the space that we have. So we're going to place the 3rd floor, and this is going to be just above the constructors below. Note how we've got 2 white squares here. This is because this is actually the entrance from the lower level, but in order to build the smelters, we have to place the smelters first, then remove these. We also have the copper ingot output line just here from the last floor that we placed. So with the copper ore in mind, coming from this little corner, we're going to place down our first splitter, and it's going to be placed just against the wall, as this is where the copper line is going to come from. And we're going to place our smelters so that they're clipping into the splitter. You should be able to use a belt in between these. Make sure you can hear it and see the little animation of it being built. And then we're going to place another smelter in line directly next to it and connect these up. They should create a really clean 90-degree line from there. These are both going to be set to copper ingots, and we're going to connect these up from here. Next, we need to do the iron line. So we're going to grab ourselves a splitter, and we're going to place this just before the crossing line here. And we're going to place this in line with the copper splitter. From here, we're going to grab our smelter again, place it the same before, so it's just clipping into it. And then we're going to place the other smelter just next to it. Once again, we should be able to connect these to the splitter using a 90-degree corner. And we're also going to bring this conveyor line up one. We're going to have to place as well a stackable conveyor pole there, and then 2 away, we're going to also place another one. This will allow us to do another 90-degree turn. And then from here, we're going to be bringing up the iron ore. This will be staggered slightly further back. You should be able to connect it here. Also, if you do not like having this one in, you can just grab the elevator and then bring it to the top. You may just have to adjust your line there. With the copper ingots now being produced, we're going to merge these together. Make sure these are super tight. Connect them together, and we're going to run the output line of copper ingots to the elevator here, which will take them to the copper floor. From here, we're going to be grabbing our constructors, and we're going to place these directly in front. I think that's the right placement of the first smelter. And then we're going to place 3 in line to the right, and then we're going to place a 4th one facing the left. From here, we're going to merge the 2 smelters together. Now, you wouldn't normally need to do this because this is producing 30 and this is smelting with 30 ingots. However, to keep this as compact as possible, it works better for us to merge these together, make sure these are connected, and then run the manifold line down here. The top constructor should be set to iron plates, and we're going to want the output to be centered on this foundation. So in order to do that, unfortunately, it's halfway across. So we're going to have to use this little tip where we're placing the stackable conveyor poles, and we're going to snap the elevator to the top of here, and then making sure that the output is along the top section, connect it to the constructor. We're also going to grab the output lane there, and then from here we will connect these up. So we now have our iron plates going to the output line. The next thing that we need to do is to merge these 2 constructors. Now, I have placed these along the edge here, and the reason for that is we're going to place a splitter here, and we're going to have half go off to become the screws, and then the other half will be sent out through here. This is clipping through slightly, but should work fine. If you want, you can remove the wall down here, and from here we can place this just on the edge here. If we do that, you'll notice that it snugly fits in there. However, sometimes, not always, but sometimes this does cause a problem with the elevators not being used as an output when you place down the blueprint. So do be aware of that. You may have to replace the line. But from here, we now have our rods going out this side, our screws being produced and coming out to here, and our iron being outputted. The screws should have an output line in the center here. We're going to take this down through both floors, so you may want to add another conveyor hole here. And at this point, we'll run along the top section of the bottom floor. We're going to run these all the way around the side here, and we're going to loop them back to the output over there. And there you are. That is the basics to the layout. The only thing left to do now is to connect this up to power and to make sure that there is an input line, for example, there for your power. And from here, we're going to sort out the walkways. I won't show you exactly what we've done, but I will give you a tour of my version and the decoration that I've done to it. You can see we have placed a half walkway, and then we're going to place a catwalk with a ramp going down. Do this way, followed by a large ramp down. I think we actually have to get rid of that. But that will lead us down to here and out. And from here you can do the decoration as you wish. So I'll show you my build now. As I mentioned, the great thing about this is the fact that you can just plonk this down, add some power, and then some storage, and this will start producing straight away to give you a head start with your new build location. I have added some beams on the outside simply because due to it being so tight, there is some clipping that you can see going on. From here, we're going to go upstairs, as you can see here, and then through to here, we have a little walkway on the top, and we're running power along the beams throughout the blueprint. Again, if you are interested in getting this blueprint, my version of it, including the decoration that we played around with, then do check out my Patreon. As a bonus, we do offer all of our blueprints on there, as well as access to our saves and the dedicated server. This factory consumes a total of 56.6 megawatts in order to run, and of course that's not including the 15 megawatts that you'll need to run the miners as well. You can see how we played around with the glass along the outside, but also the depth as well, and as well as some of the shapes. As you can see, we've got some angles edging throughout the build and cutting through the glass. Even the pillars here, mixed with the different types of walls and the beams that you can see, really do add a little bit of shape to the build rather than keeping it as this square box, which I kind of want to avoid for these. I don't want them looking boring. So where possible, we will take out a bit of extra space that we have in there in order to change up the shape slightly. An all-in-one pocket factory, which you can take with you wherever you go and just line it up to get you started wherever you may find yourselves. Not bad. But there you are, guys. If you did enjoy the video and find it helpful, please do hit the thumbs up. And if you're enjoying blueprints, why not check out all the blueprints I recommend that you have in your build? I'll put a link to that video right now in the right-hand corner. Special thanks goes to all of our amazing supporters on Patreon, most notably our Solarclipse patrons James Irwin, Firefless, and Trebor, as well as our Lunas, the Calamity, Ben, Star, Shoku the MN Wolf, and that dude AW, as well as our Blood Moon of the day, which today is the Blind Teacher. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.